I call this City Commission / County Commission meeting to order, January 22nd, 2026. Would you join me in the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would, lead us in the prayer.
Yes, sir. Okay, please everyone bow their heads, join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, this evening help us seek God's presence, guidance, strength and peace, and wisdom for the day, asking for help to live righteously, serving others, overcoming challenges, and finding purpose. We are all here this evening to work within your grace and in your guide, your words, actions. Please be present. Please show us how to love, how to trust, and guide us through the purpose of today. We thank you for the gift of today. Fill us with love, cast out fear, open to hope, endurance, and strength times ahead of us. In your name, we pray.
All right. This special meeting of the Pittsburg City Commission and County Commissioners was scheduled to discuss property taxes and the 2026 budget with all of us here. I had a conversation with Darren a few days ago. Now, I just have to say, he made a comment that our former finance director, Allison Ramsey, found mistakes when she was doing her job and she corrected them. Now, I don't know if you call this a mistake, but I think in what Allison would have done, what we need to do tonight is correct what happened. So, having said that, moving forward, I'm supposed to be talking in this. I don't know if you guys can hear me but anyway. So, I'll just go around, whoever wants to talk or introduce himself to people that are sitting at home. They might not be able to see your name tag, so could you start off, Lisa? Let us know who you are.
Yes, I'm Lisa Lusker. I'm the Crawford County Clerk.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jim Emerson, Crawford County Councilor. Appreciate you having us, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Joe Grzolano, Crawford County Treasurer.
Carl Wood, County Commissioner, and I also want to thank the City of Pittsburgh for hosting this tonight, because I think it's real important. And something else, I know history-wise, I don't think I ever seen the county and the city together, commissioners-wise. But again, thank you.
I'm Tom Moody, 2nd District County Commissioner.
Bruce Blair, 1st District County Commissioner.
Ron Sigley, City Commission. DJ Perry, City Commission.
Chuck Mansell, City Commissioner.
Stu Height, City Commission.
Cheryl Brooks, Pittsburgh City Commission.
Darren Hall, City Manager.
Jay Byers, Deputy City Manager.
Missy Scott, Director of Finance of the city.
Tammy Nagel, City Clerk.
Jacob Bennett, Deputy City Clerk.
And our city attorney, Henry, again, he's not here, but he's going to be joining us on the telephone. So, how do we want to start this?
I'd say probably explaining to the public what has happened would be a good idea. I know some of it's been in the media. Some of it's been in the media. It's been discussed in different places all over the county. So an overview of what's happened, how it took place, and then we can move on to hopefully some suggestions and direction how to fix it as a group.
I'm very glad that we're all here together tonight because I think we owe it to the taxpayers. I know that the county is different from the city as far as their budget, and I think we can all agree that ambulance, sheriff's department or police department, road and bridge, or even roads here, those are things that people do not want to see cut because whenever we need somebody, we want them to come. And I know we can probably come to agreement somehow to make this all work out, but for me, I think it's all about the numbers. And I'd like to see the numbers be corrected and then just move forward from there and not make it to where it's a big deal. It is a big deal to taxpayers, but if it can be corrected, I think we owe it to them to make this happen.
So, oh my goodness. So we reached out to Lisa last Friday about, there's a form that the county provides which kind of kicks off the city's budget calendar for the year. We do some preliminary work, but we don't really have any numbers to work on. So we reached out to Lisa and said, hey, our mill that we submitted was 50.854. Obviously, it came in at 52.006. So the starting point was to get that original form back and have her update it with all the numbers that, once we turn it in, there's about 4 months that it goes to the county, and then we get, every year there's a slight fluctuation because, as she says there's so many changes going on with protests and things like that. So we're like, can we just see the form, how it ended the year, and then we could easily look at it and see where the mill increase came from. For us, that was a good starting point. We have a copy of that here. The two things that jumped out, the biggest thing was there's probably $4 million change in our assessed valuation from the budget that we submitted as our adopted budget to the end of the year. And Lisa pointed out that in our calculations, and this kind of goes back to what Chuck said, we've had 4 finance directors in about 5 years. Jay says 5, but I'm thinking 4. But, and Jamie Clarkson, when Jamie was here, he'd been doing it for 27 years, so we never even questioned it. But Allison did come to us one year and said, hey, I think we left out, I think at that point it was the TIF or the RID. So we corrected it. The next year went by and it was fine. This year, Lisa pointed out, she goes, well, in your calculation, the TIF and the RID, which is ever growing in this community, was about $3.2 million. There's a small line under there that says, this is not in the total. We misread it and said that we thought it was in the total, so we didn't take it out. When she got the forms, this is her job, she went through and checked all of the math and took that number out, which of course increased the assessed valuation pool that we thought we had was much smaller by about $3.3 million, and that led to the 1.152 mill increase, because what we do when we submit our budget is, as much as we're saying we're looking for this mill rate, what we're really saying is we need this $9.3 million from property tax to build our budget on. And so she makes that change very late in the process. And that's the $9.3 million that we already had in the budget, but it caused the mill, in order to generate that much money off of the assessed valuation number, which was now smaller, she had to increase the mill to 52.006. Happens every year. Doesn't usually happen like that because obviously we overspoke how big the assessed valuation was because of that TIF and RID. So we did talk about the form in general, and we looked up some other forms and said, hey, it's always confusing, especially when we don't have somebody that's been doing it for 27 years. And she said, yeah, why don't we, before we submit our budget next year to the county in September, give it to her well before that and say, look, this is where we're landing. Have we addressed this form correctly? Because that's really where the error came from. And she said she'd be happy to do it. I personally would love to see something at the very end as well, but I don't think that's possible. I mean, you're talking November, December, when she's actually finalizing our budget. She has to do that adjustment of the mill rate. It would have been nice to come back and say to the city, hey, you're looking at an extra $207,000 at this increased mill rate. If you really wanted to set your mill rate, because that's what we do every year. We come to you and say, we are going to leave the mill flat and we are going to take the growth. But when we did that this year, because we had that, the TIF and RID was in there, it had to be increased. If at that point we would have been able to go back and say, well, let's take 207 out and stick with the budget that we planned on submitting. But I don't think I'm not going to talk about your process, but that's really late in the game, and I know you're following the state's rules. But that's how we got to our 207. And I want to say thank you very much to Lisa, because she probably took 4 or 5 phone calls from us in about 3 days saying, okay, now we're looking at this number, what's that? And she was very patient and said, yeah, and understood that the process just needs to be, I think it needs to be easier to understand, and it probably needs to be a little more flexible, but she's got the process she has from the state, and that's the one we're using.
I just like to ask Lisa or anyone else, is there a mechanism that we can do just what Darren asked to do if you see that there's going to be an increase, like this year was 207,000, is there any wiggle room in there where he could come to us? You tell him, they come to the commission, and we could remedy that?
So my schedule is really tight as far as when things are cut off, when the state says we're no longer able to make changes, when we feel like we can cut off changes, because, you know, I have all the budgets in, we shut off all changes, because changes are made all summer. There's things that move on, there's things that move off, owners change, you know, sometimes things are exempt, sometimes things are sold. So we have to keep going to get the most up-to-date information in order to turn it over to the treasurer for collections. The legislature likes to add things, and usually when changes are made and things are added, it's added to the clerk's office. And I'm not saying this to get pity or whatever, but that's why my timelines are so important. So I guess moving forward, we probably could have a conversation. I could call, you know, and just, the problem is during the budget process, I don't see what you all are doing. We have our own budget process, which takes a lot of work sessions, a lot of hours, a lot of painstaking, you know, changes and cuts and conversations with all departments. I imagine it's probably the same with you guys. It's just a very time-consuming process. But we probably can have a conversation after you guys get, you know, a formal draft of your budget and just see where we are. Unfortunately, with the changes that happened during the summertime and the early fall, there's just no way to know exactly what your final valuation is. And that's why the legislature has changed my job as far as you have the initial revenue neutral rate that you either decide to exceed or you decide you aren't going to exceed. That's done in July. Once you do all the things to exceed it, you guys might be looking for a certain mill rate, but I'm not. The legislature has changed it to where I can change the mill rate in order to meet your needs for what you need for a dollar amount. So, you know, we can go through and look at that. Our problem in the county is really exemptions. That's our biggest thing. Really, I don't know that I'm supposed to be taking this stuff off that is exempted until it passes through the Board of Tax Appeals. But we know it's not going to be taxed. We know they can go back 2 years. So, you know, say they do pay their taxes, then we're kind of on the hook to pay them back in the year that they get approved. So we just usually take it all out. It's a big job. I work with the appraiser's office. I work with Joe's office. I mean, we all work very closely together. We go through a lot of conversations. We go through a lot of exemptions. We go through a lot of everything. I'd just like to say I take my job really seriously. I try to do it to the best of my ability. This is one arm of my job. I also have elections. Honestly, there's still things I'm learning about this job that we do. I didn't even know we did. I have a great staff. So there's a lot of numbers floating out there. I don't know where most of them came from. I know the numbers that we have. I know they're correct. I've talked to Darren and Jay. They now know the numbers are correct. We have the same number in mind as far as what it would be, what the actual ending valuation was, what happened during the process, and we're, you know, Darren's right on in what happened. The RHID was left out of the valuation when it was plugged in to do your budget. And that's almost $3.3 million of value. So that is already built into our system, into CIC, which is our software company. It's built in to where it will separate the value out, but like Darren said, there is a little note on my budget sheet that says it's not subtracting, it's not subtracted from the total value. So you do have to back that out, because RHID, I guess I should back up a little bit and explain. RHID is, I think they've changed it, but it started out as a rural housing incentive district. So those are the homes in the taxing units that we've created that, that have been built. They were given a small value of what the land was. A house was built, and then the taxpayer is paying on that smaller amount. So that's not actually tax money that anybody collects on the house amount.
Lisa, I just want to correct that statement. That the property owner does pay the taxes. It's just that they're not all distributed. They're sent back to the city in this case to be sent to the developer.
Right, sorry.
For the development
Yes,
cost.
it
The
does.
taxpayer pays the taxes.
You do pay it, but you guys
It's
don't.
the distribution process.
Right, you guys don't actually receive that tax money.
We can't
So
use it to pay for services.
it's not income that you guys can write down to pay your bills.
That pays the contractor back for the infrastructure
Right,
and
right.
everything.
The developer, yeah.
developer.
Sorry, I misspoke about that, but, so that shouldn't be in the total value, because it's not a chunk that you're gonna be collecting on, basically.
So that's just the length of the red, though, to be clear, right? I mean,
Yes,
just-
it does
just to
go back on
clarify.
the, yeah, so whatever your RHID, value is, you will, I don't know if it's 10 years, I think, I'd have to look.
It can go to 25, but it depends on when it is, the infrastructure is paid out.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, once it does come back on the tax rolls, you can add that value, and it won't be RHID anymore, it'd just be absorbed into the Pittsburgh taxing unit. So anyway, the numbers are final, and from what the paperwork that I've done, and just knowing what happened and trying to figure out, the budget amount was set in September by you guys, and you decided you needed $9,342,043. So when you did your budget, it was with the higher valuation that had the RHID included in it, which is not correct, but, so that made the proposed levy of 50.854. So if you take the actual valuation, the final levy was set with, which was $179,626,310. I'm just going to say the numbers because, I haven't written down. And you multiply it by the proposed levy that you guys had figured on your original budget that you wanted to stick with of 50.854. That would be $9,134,716 of ad valorem tax to collect. So if you take the bigger number and you subtract the smaller number, you get $207,000. So that's basically what extra. Now, you're not getting extra. It's the same amount of tax. It's illegal to collect more tax than you've put in your budget. I can't move it, I can't change it. It is what it is. So I've figured that with the difference, and it's $207,000, and Darren said that early on. I don't know where the other numbers are coming from. I've heard 500,000, I've heard that's noise right now. That's not the actual number. We have access to the numbers, we have them in our system. We've shared them with the city. I mean, that's the fact.
Can you help us explain one more thing, because I don't think.
Yeah.
So, under the AV column, it says the submitted and adopted budget that the city submitted, which was the 183,703,295. Obviously, you took out the red, and the red was basically $3.3 million. There's another almost $800,000, and you told me, I was trying to tie back to the number the other day, and you're like, you're not going to be able to tie back to my number after you
No.
submit it to me, because can you
There's
kind of
so
talk
many
about what
changes.
comes and goes from that 4 months where we're like,
Well, yeah, I kind of went over it a little bit earlier. There's changes that's made in the appraiser's office. They submit the changes up to my office, and we implement the changes. It's changes in, it's exemptions, it's, changing from vacant to, putting some value on it with building. It changes ownership. There's just lots of changes that are made, and the valuations tweaked. Protests are made, people want their valuations lowered for whatever reason it's granted. So there's it could be higher, it could be lower, but when you figure your dollar amount for what you need for your tax value, for what you need out of tax money, that is what we are aiming for. That's what I aim to do, is to get you the money that you've decided that you've needed to run your town and just, distribute that out. So,
And we did catch the 183, originally it was 198. The one thing we caught early was the hospital was still in
Right.
there.
Yeah,
Of
it's-
like 16 million. So we did reach out to your office or the appraiser,
Yes.
and he was like, he gave us a sheet that said, here's the
Yes.
possible things that are gonna change property. And then he actually highlighted another number and said, I think you would be comfortable taking this out, because I believe these will all go through BODA or whatever the process is.
yes.
So
Yeah.
we did catch that piece.
And we
What
are
we didn't
gonna,
catch
we're gonna
was
work
this
with
other
the appraiser and figure out some things that we can do to better get that information out. And you guys are really one of the only taxing entities that this happens with, because you have these RHIDs, you have, TIFs, you have, a hospital that sold.
Just sold.
The important thing, I think, to say is that this is not something that I feel like I made a mistake on. It was a mistake that, through the finance department, I mean, you're going through changes. It was not to collect any more money from the taxpayers. It was not to line anybody's pockets. It wasn't something nefarious. It was a mistake that happened that, now you're tasked with figuring out what to do next. To go into, if everybody's okay with that.
No, Lisa, nobody's here pointing fingers. Like you said, it's a
Right.
mistake. We're
Yeah.
here figuring out how we can correct it.
Absolutely, and I'd kind of like to get into the numbers just a little bit.
Yeah.
If you guys are satisfied with that, I just don't want to rush. So when we're looking at, I hate to say rebate, I don't really know what to call it, distributing back tax money to the taxpayer. For that 1.152 of mills. It's the $207,000. I've just done some quick, and this is with information that came to us in the summer, the initial assessed values, and it's not like final, it's not with changes and everything that was set by the end of the year and turned over to the collections. There were 6,782 residential properties in the city of Pittsburgh. So if you do this redistribution of the 207,000, about 2,362 residents will get less than $10. So that's like 35% of what's out there. Over 5,000 will get less than, so like of that 6,782, over 5,000 people will get less than $25 back. So I think when it was initially thrown out there that, this is going to help, these taxpayers, with substantially, I mean, what we're really talking about is the highest taxpayers in the city, and, Joplin, Kansas title holder, Evergy, Kansas Crossing, Pitt Plastics. I mean, you're talking, the majority is going to go to these businesses and, higher values. So people that pay more taxes are going to get a bigger chunk of that, if that's what you
Have
decide.
you heard from any of those that want their money back?
No, I've not heard from anybody demanding money. I don't know what you guys have heard. I'm not, I'm not in that position, so I couldn't tell you. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that that's pretty much where we're at.
Do we know what kind of expense that would be, Lisa?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Tom. Joe and I have been really trying to figure out how to implement this, how to make this work. We don't really have a specific cost for the city. but it's gonna cost something. So I imagine that would come out of the $207,000 that you're wanting to redistribute. It's almost an impossible task, but I don't know if you want to take over a little bit.
Our two software vendors for both our accounting software and our tax administration software have not been very uplifting. I'll use the word. That it's something that they think can be done very easily. So at this point, we're still looking into it.
Did you say it's not something that can be done very easily?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's really not.
And
It's
Lisa, on the-
monumental.
So what you're saying is, the numbers you gave us, the 2,362 residents would get less than $10. That's before you figure in the expense to
Yes, and that's the entire 207. I mean, that's even, I don't know if that's something the city even has in there. I mean, I just figure when you do your budget and you set your numbers, you're really setting it to what you need. I mean, I know that's what the county does. We don't say, well, throw an extra, 600,000 in for this or that. I mean, we just don't. We're more responsible. I know our commissioners are more responsible.
If we ever got to our reserve levels, we would, but right now, like I said, we'll take the budget. Our starting point is to set the mill, keep the mill level, which is we've been able to do for the last 4 years, I think, and most of the years before that. And then whatever we get, obviously, our costs, like the county, everybody's costs are going up so much that we appropriate, if we get 9.3 million from property tax, we're gonna put that into the budget. Obviously, the sales taxes are all earmarked. But we have a running reserve that we use. It's supposed to be 2 months of expenditures, as you probably already know, for most government agencies. It's a little bit under that in the general fund, but that would be the only time, I think. If we were plumb on reserves and we thought everybody in every department had exactly what they need, then I guess there could come a day where we'd be like, yeah, we're fine, we don't. But yeah, we're always working uphill to provide more services than we did the year before, and everything is always getting more expensive.
So what are our choices?
Well, that's what we're working out.
Before we get into the choices,
Okay.
I think that what needs to be said here is that, and you said it correctly, there's an error that's taken place. We collectively need to make sure we don't make an additional error moving forward and to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yes,
And us all being together is the start of that.
yes.
I want to press, I know we're going to have some kind of options on what to do and what makes the most sense, what's most cost effective, but again, I don't want any of our public safety to be affected by this, by a numbers game that they weren't involved in. The safety of this community, the people that need them the most, the darkest hours, those are the people that are out there on call, and we're in here at a desk. I want to make sure that those people don't get punished because we're trying to figure this out.
Absolutely.
That's a separate fund, am I correct on that?
Well, I mean, the public safety is funded not only from the general fund, but the voters voted to pass 2 sales taxes to fund it. So, in essence, it's underfunded from the property tax just by the definition of somebody decided that we needed more tax money and passed 2 sales taxes to supplement it. So it's never going to be funded, but the recommendation wouldn't be to cut anything. I mean, that's why we have a reserve. It's a minimal amount. It's $207,000, and quite frankly, $150,000 is only the amount that we're talking about because that mill is split by 3 ways. The library gets a piece of it, which was about $25,000. I don't have the exact number, and then the debt levy gets a piece of it too. So the general fund, the impact is $150,000, which is less than 1% of the general fund. So we're not talking about anybody not being funded on the police. And quite frankly, to be clear, we're not in a business that's not public safety. Our parks and rec are public safety. They're a safe place for people to go recreate. Our water utilities is about safe water. Our wastewater, the city is generally, every business we're in is public safety. So I know police and fire do the lion's share of the work, and I don't want to discount. The general fund pays for all of our park services, the municipal court, So it's more, it's all the city employees, and I don't think that cutting $207,000 or $150,000 out of the general fund would do anybody any good. What is the county doing? The county's got a little bigger number, they're a bigger budget. What's the county's number?
For what? For which number are you talking about?
For the overage?
Overage on the hospital.
Okay, I've heard two numbers. I've heard around 750,000. I've heard 800,000, which is a lot more than what you got. Is these numbers correct?
So it's 7, yes. I don't have the exact,
You know, let's just say between 700,000 and 800,000.
But it's relative, your budget size, our budget, so are you,
Go ahead.
what do you guys think?
Well, that's what we're here for tonight, to see which way to go, because part of it, we get from the city, and then the rest is from the county.
Right.
So,
so they're two separate issues. If you guys want, obviously you can do whatever you want.
Let's talk about the county now. We've talked about Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Let's tell what happened, and how much it played into it, and where the money we plan on going with it.
Okay.
So
the hospital sold, our software drops the ball when it comes to big things like that. For some reason, the 13 million that the hospital was exempted off was still in the valuation. And that's ultimately on me. I need to, we have figured out a better way to try to get valuations and changes in tax status and everything from the appraiser up to my office, and make sure that we're keeping track of everything. We've already implemented a plan, which is going really well, but there's no extra money. So a lot of things have been thrown around that, we have our budget padded, there's a lot, we're collecting more money, we are not collecting more money. It is the same amount. We would not statutorily be able to collect more money than what is on the budgets that all 3 commissioners signed and approved. And it's up to the commission to decide what to do next. I still think that it's not as easy as just writing checks. It really is not. It's a huge, we have 30,000 parcels, whereas it's 6,000 for the city of Pittsburgh. It's a lot more spread out. But again, we're talking about utility companies. We're talking about, the big businesses. And we're not talking about life-changing numbers either for the average taxpayer.
Before we go any further into the county, Tom, I just want to say that, you all had meetings like we did, and the last meeting we had, it was like, well, the county's waiting to see what the city's going to do, and now the city's waiting for what the county's going to do. I don't think that's the right approach. I think that's why we're here, and, I just wonder how would we have found out about this if it didn't come forward? Would we just took it and whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, that's, the answer to your question is yes, Chuck. You guys, like I told you last week, you guys set a budget, it's a dollar amount. We set a budget, our commissioner set a budget, it's a dollar amount. That's what we're collecting, is that dollar amount.
Right.
But to
It's
Chuck's
not,
point, yeah.
that's the bottom line. A budget is a budget.
But
The
Chuck-
mill levy is nothing but a calculation.
Right.
But Chuck's question is, the answer to your question is, we look at it every year once we get the final from the county, and it usually changes by 0.02% or.
Up or down,
When it changed by 1.152, that's when we were like, we probably need to get the form back and see what changed, and that's kind of what drove it, so.
So the
It
problem-
will be looked at when it's significant, and this is obviously significant, so that's.
the
why.
problem is, again, going back to my timeline, I have up until, first of all, to give you a little insight of of our office during the month of October, we are elections. I mean, we are understaffed, we are running 6 different ways, and I am not only trying to run elections, I am dealing with taxes. I'm dealing with final evaluations, I'm dealing with sending all of my certified stuff into the state with the abstract, and also getting the tax rolls ready to turn over to Joe to implement collecting. And we are under a timeline. I mean, November 1st is when I have to have it given to Joe, done, ready. I mean, this is not like you have 2 weeks, here's your final evaluations. Now, if it fits into your schedule, if you can create it, I don't know what your rules are for open meetings, but, it's not going to be just as easy as me handing over a new sheet and saying, well, you went up or down, 100,000 or up. So
The time to catch it would be before we submitted our budget, I think. And we would come back and said, look, we've taken your form and interpreted it to be this. Are we right? And I'm sure you probably could have found 10 minutes to go, well, this says TIF RID is not subtracted from real estate value, which we thought it meant
yes,
we're not supposed to subtract it.
my
And you
final
would have
number
said,
would have
"No,
been different, and
you
we
are
would have figured
supposed
it
to."
out. Yeah.
But that's how we catch it going forward, I think, is what DJ was asking, and Chuck is, we obviously can't do this again.
Right.
And we won't. And now, I'd love to say, well, Missy's gonna solve all our problems, because she's our new finance director, but.
Missy's gonna help a lot.
She is human, and she's already solved a lot of them, but it's on us to understand that form, because we apparently have, somebody new doing it every 18 months.
I mean, if I was to say anything, I would say, we can't go back, we can't change what happened, one thing. 2 is, we all want the taxpayers to be fair to them. But let's be realistic as far as logistical and cost-wise. And I know your office is skinny, our office is skinny, we're down 1 person, and we still have our regular business to take care of, just like you have your regular business to take care of. If we step back and we go back in and we redo those numbers, and if we can get the software companies, which it doesn't sound very positive, to do those calculations for us, and to send those checks back or whatever, this is also going to affect next year's budget, because that's gonna make you behind. That's gonna make the calendar behind. Everything's gonna get backlogged, we're gonna have a backlog of all this, and then we're looking at 2027 budget, running in to it, and it's backlogged, and you're not meeting the deadlines on it, and I think that's gonna cause a lot more problems than this $10 or $25 that taxpayers are gonna get back.
Well, I would agree with you 100%, but it comes down to a political third rail.
Absolutely, yes.
Either we put the money in the reserve system, the county has a reserve system, I assume, where they put money into reserve, or we put it into reserve, or we give it back. Or some other.
Joe said something, could you credit it next year?
I would, this is where
What
Jim
your
needs to
idea?
speak.
I don't know whose idea it was, but.
Okay, I've been waiting for my turn, so thanks, everybody. We've worked hard internally to figure out if we get to a fixed point, what does that look like? What are our options? And so the options, as I see them, we've looked at, so the original thought was we go back in, we redo budgets, we reset levies, we reprint tax statements, we try to pay people who have paid in full, we try to credit people who haven't paid in full. Sounds like from the software company, that's going to be a disaster. I mean, I think it's a non-starter. So we've regrouped, they're saying it's 6 months to try to build even the credit piece out. So we've looked at 2 options. One of those is 2 options and then a third that I'll talk about. The 2 options to give some or all of the money back would be a check. So you'd cut a check. We're looking at about 28,000 of those. We're looking at a preliminary partial cost of $2 each. You're up to 60 grand pretty quick, and that is assuming that the calculations can be made. We have 2 different vendors. We have a tax vendor, we have an accounts payable. It's 2 separate programs, and they've gotten to the point where they were really good when they first started, because you had people there that knew county government, city government. They were real creative. They knew how to program things. You're getting on now where we're lucky that they keep up with our basic needs. So when you throw them an off-the-wall solution, and it's just like they kind of melt down, and they're like, I don't know how we do that for you. Go ahead there.
Would a city person, would that save you on a check because they're getting the city and the county piece back?
So yes, that would be one, yes, if
you're only capping that as
if everybody
one check.
agreed to a check, then right, that would not be 100, right, we wouldn't be 28,000 and then an extra 9 that I know of, but there may be some calculations, there may have to be some way to get the data, because Joe's gonna have to get that data from the tax software to our accounting package, 2 separate packages, but figure out banking, there's a lot to figure out. I'm coming here tonight without a final solution for you, but we're digging and we're doing the best we can to figure out some options for everybody, because I think that's why I'm here tonight, to help try to help with options.
Can I ask, maybe you, Joe? We started out with our mill at 50.8, and I know that's just it's about the numbers. So it was raised because it had to be to 52.006. So do we start the 27 budget at that mill levy, or do we go back to the 50.8 or 48, whatever?
2.006.
And that's where my concern's at. If we do nothing, then we start 27's budget behind with this new mill levy, the new number, trying to move forward. So we're already behind in 27, and I'm glad, Missy, you worded it the way you did, because, I mean, we're there now. We're at 52. So
If you just take it off, I mean, you're setting the budget, you're setting the mill rate. You can just say next year, we're gonna start at 50.854, and, I mean, that's what I tried to explain.
that's back tracing the rest of the budget to meet that number without any other variables that we're dealing with today.
No, you got, this is important. Okay, I'm gonna try to say this again. We don't have enough money to run the city the way it needs to be run. That's why we don't have maximum reserves. That's why we have potholes. That's why we have park stuff that doesn't get done. We always need more money than we have. The commission in the last 14 years has said, 10 years ago, we finally went from losing valuation to gaining it. And the policy that we have always brought to you through the 5-year forecast and the budget is, let's just leave the mill where it is, knowing we can't raise it and do all the extra services that we'd really like to do, knowing we can only do as much as we can. So that's where we start every year. And then the money goes out. Then whatever that generates off of the assessed valuation is the money we live with. If you come in next year and say, hey, we got to correct for this, and we're going to start back at where we were in 2025's budget, which is 50.854, the idea, I mean, everybody's cut happy. There's a list of deferred maintenance and stuff that we don't do to our parks and our buildings and our equipment that's 50 times bigger than our budget. We're never going to do what we're supposed to do. We're just doing the most with what we have. And you guys will tell us in the budget process what we can afford, our taxpayers, and that's what we'll set the budget around, DJ. We're not going to have to, we're not losing, I mean, losing ground is relative. The cost of living is 1 year it's 2, the next year it's 7. So we're just trying to keep the mill rate flat and live on the growth and the value. That's all we've ever done. I've never had a commission come in and say, hey, we're going up 6 mills this year because I want to get some more stuff done. We just don't have that
We
flexibility.
did raise it 3 mills 1 year.
We've raised it twice. We raised it 1 mill when I first got here because we're down to $1 million in the bank. And we raised it 3 mills right when the property tax lid took off because we didn't think we were ever going to raise it again.
So again, just to reiterate that the mill levy is just the number that you create. I mean, you could go into your budget next year and say, well, there was $207,000 that we didn't plan for, or, that we wanted to cut and give back to the taxpayers. You could wipe that out and, take it out of next year's budget. I mean, that to me would be the most painless as far as implementation, but again, it's up to you. But, you guys worked really hard to get elected, like really hard. From an election standpoint, I saw it. You knocked on doors. I mean, these people got you elected. They're going to trust what you do, what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to cut the budget $200,000, I would trust that you are going to do that, because that's, you were elected for the people.
Just like you said, and I talked to all three of the county commissioners. That's, why can't we start, say to speak, in the whole next budget, 207,000?
You can't.
We've already overspent. Why can't we just, hey, this is 207,000 in the hole?
You absolutely can.
700, 800,000 in the hole.
To me, that would be the most financially responsible as far as, not having to pay to cut checks and again, we're talking cents, like, and I don't know where you cut that off. I don't know if that's something that you wanted to do, like everybody gets what the difference in the mill levy would be. You're talking some people would get less than $1. A lot of people would get less than $1. So do you write that check? Does it do you use that money when it costs $2 to write the check or whatever? I think it's going to be more because I think you'll have overtime. I think there'll be more expenses that we don't see, and I don't think that that's an inflated number.
And our share of those checks is 15 grand, so there's a cost to that.
I mean, simply to mail, and then there's the factor that we're still all human and everything's not going to be completely, people are going to say, well, I sold that house, or, I didn't even have that house last year. I didn't pay taxes last year. This is my first year in this house, or, there's a lot of variables that we can't control and that we're not going to get right. There'll be mistakes.
Chuck, what you're saying is, like in our case, they're saying 700,000. Are you talking about next year when people's pay stub, not pay stub, their check or tax come out, take off, give them credit? Say they have, say their taxes are $600 and they got $200 coming back from the county. You saying take off from 600, did they just pay 400? Or the people that just paid half, give them credit on their second half?
Well, you could do either one. I mean, you can't give them
But,
credit and then
but
start
the
in the hole.
people would be getting the money back, but we wouldn't be collecting it because we already got a budget set. Does that make sense to you?
Isn't it, Carl, isn't it more on the budget process that you back the 200,000 out? I mean,
We would just start.
you just
They
start
would
with
start there, but like
there,
with
yeah.
us, we're 700, all the numbers that I had is a little more, but I'd settle for 700. I mean, so in other words, we wouldn't collect all this 700 because people would be getting credit back like me. I just pay mine half at a time, so I wouldn't pay the full amount.
Well, that's if you give them credit, but if you go with working from the whole, us 200,000 and the county 700,000, when you figure your budget for 2027, you're down that.
He's just talking about next year's budget.
Yeah.
Next year's
You're
budget.
starting next year's budget
Yeah.
in the hole. You're
Oh, yeah.
You're not refunding any money, you're not crediting anybody.
So what
You're
happens to
setting your
this
budget
here?
Where you're starting.
So
Less.
we'd have less for the budget because ours was 46.59 and it ended up being 48 something. So we'd have like, he was talking about, we'd start out less than 46.59.
Yeah.
So the people would not, they would see it next year, but how are we going to operate the budget? Because we're going to be 700,000 less by going back to that number, and then are we going back to the,
Well, if we
No,
go
I'm
that
just
route,
talking, please.
That's just my thoughts.
yeah.
If we go that route, then we know every department, I don't know how you guys do it, but every department, you're gonna come up with something less that adds up to this 200.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like this. One option, as somebody said, is we can cut right now. If we weren't gonna use fund balance, if you're gonna cut a service, you can cut it right now. The other option is to lower the mill rate next year and cut those services. They're gonna get that credit for that 207 plus, I'm pretty sure most of the commission wants to give property tax relief anyway. So that would be the starting point. That doesn't mean if we were already gonna cut 1 or 2 mills, that would be 1.152 of it. It would be the starting point, and then we would still come through, and I'm assuming the commission's gonna say, hey, we wanna cut another 1 or 2 mills, depending on the economy and the state of the budget. But so you're really delaying the cut. I think the hardest part is to think, to Lisa's point, there's some big boys that are that have more money on the table. So they're the ones that are gonna have to live with going without $100 or a $200 check. The people that could make the argument, well, I want my $10 now, well, I know, but it's $10.
I think people would be more satisfied knowing that they was going to get a credit. You know, we're talking about next year. And, you know, we talk about the mill levy. Tom's got a sheet right here. In 2018, we was 51.052. And in 2025, we was down to 46. So we've actually cut our mill levy. But what got us in a pickle, my own personal opinion, we collected the assessed appraised value, because all value, the way I understand, if I got the right number, went up 7%. So you got two denominators there, but see, we was just looking at one.
Yep.
We wasn't looking at the second. So is there taxes money-wise? I mean, mill levy went down, but if their assessed value goes up,
Yeah, our mill levy at 48.63 is basically just a hair above where it was in '23. And it's went down every year. And I can tell you that this commission meets on weeks on end to work to get to the mill, to get it back to where it was the year before or less. I mean, it's right here. So, I mean, we work for the number that we need to fund our operations. And when we have, you know, to beef up the sheriff's department, have to beef up the ambulance, because what we've experienced, and everybody over here will tell you, with our ambulance department, we were losing employees left and right because they could go other places and make a hell of a lot more than what they were making with us. So we try to fund 4 units all the time. There were times that we couldn't. We had 3. Hell, there were times we had 2. And we've got a hospital that needs transfers. And until any one of you in here has to take a phone call from a loved one who can't get their family member to a hospital, or from one hospital to another, because you don't have enough ambulance, it's a real kick in the teeth. And, you know, of the 700, what did we beef them up, 400,000? Or something, so.
I mean, I'll reiterate kind of what was said in our commission meeting the other day, and really what it comes down to, it was a number. So I don't think there's 100% understanding of what our budget process looks like. You know, we meet a lot, we've heard that, but basically what we start our budget process is we get given a budget sheet for each department. We look at it and we meet with 90% of those departments. Anything that has an increase, we meet with personally, one-on-one. Some of them, Lisa may have 3 that, or 2 for sure, that she represents, and we do those at the same time. So we go through each one of those on face-to-face meeting and look at the increases from the year before, look at what those increases are, if they're justified, if she's thinking something for raises for employees, all that stuff. After we go through all those, then we go through those sheets individually. Well, Lisa's there, Jim's there, and the commissioners are there at least 5 times. And we keep going through and we keep trying to cut money where we think, you know, in their explanation, well, we can do with that, we can maybe do that next year, or however we do it. This year, I'll be honest with you, at the end of it, and there's miscommunication on the sheriff's department EMS, but at the end of it, we were calling the sheriff in and say, is there any way you can cut more money out of your budget? Because we were trying to get to that magic mill number.
Do you guys have sales tax?
Out of the proposed,
Sorry, Stu.
out of the proposed budget, not yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the
So
budget was already set.
So we got to that where we thought we were supposed to be, and we fixed a couple problems. EMS, I agree with Tom, it was one of those things that you don't want to go cry every meeting about what's going on because you don't want to show your shortfallings, but we were failing there and we realized it and we had to prop it up. Sheriff Department, he asked for budget, he asked for a bunch, and he got quite a bit. And he got to a place that he was comfortable. The other day when I brought up cutting public service, it's because those were the big ones.
Yeah.
Road and Bridge is a big one, EMS is a big one, and the sheriff was a big one. If we would have known at that point, oh wait, we made a mistake and we gotta get this mill number, I'm sorry, but every one of us should agree there would have to been cuts in those areas. and I don't wanna do it. But the rest of those areas, the other budgets, there's not a whole lot, we don't have a reserve. There's a few things, I mean, we got risk management because of our insurance, but there are some years where it can go to nothing.
Yeah, we were there.
So the 700,000, after going through it again and realizing, okay, we approved that number, there was no extra 1.7 million. We went through that and we were trying our best to get it down to that point, at that point. That would have been impossible. We could have went back and we could have probably cut some in different places. I still have ideas if we come to a conclusion that where we can cut some. I don't want to touch the sheriff's department budget any more than anyone else. I definitely don't want to touch EMS because I'll tell you who gets the short end on that. It is Girard in the western part of the county.
Right.
Because there will be EMS in Frontenac and there'll be EMS in Pittsburgh and there will not be any in Girard.
Well,
I know, I mean, but.
No, I appreciate it.
But with all this, the turmoil going on and all the comments out there, there's a lot of untruth in that, because we didn't get extra.
Yeah, we didn't, and that's, I think, fair.
It's a timely process, and we take it serious, and we went through, and we thought we were there. Unfortunately, because of that mistake, or whatever you call it, the burden shifted to other people. Hindsight, I don't know if we'd ever got to that mill this year.
No.
Not with the increases. We went in, or at least I felt like we went into this budget with the ask, after we went through all the meetings with all the different departments, like there is no way we can get there this year.
Right.
Because it was so substantial.
When Chuck got on his first year, he made comments to me about, I mean, I got here in 12. I mean, 08 was the cliff. Assessed valuation dropped 10 or 12 million. And the commission at the time, the 3 or 4 commissions before I got here, they never raised the mill because, as I always am told, be careful cutting the mill because you aren't going to be able to raise it when you need it. And that's what happened. And Chuck's like, we don't have, and I'm like, that's why we did the very first mill increase, because I was like, we don't have any reserve. Reserve is a luxury. You know, it's kind of like your savings for your family. I mean, everybody wants to have some, and some people have it covered, and some people, they just don't have enough to put it away. So we have made it a priority. But I think your point's well taken. The city budget and the county budget are quite different. But the one thing we have in common is everybody knows they're not getting any more next year from me. We're going to start with raises, and we're going to start with cost of living for doing the same thing. And we'll be lucky if we have enough tax money to do that. And so the idea that we're banking money and we're piling money away, it doesn't happen.
Well, and to go back to that, sorry, let's say the 700,000, if we're gonna roll it back and try to get to that. Now, if our evaluation's good?
Sure.
If our evaluation's good, it's easier to do.
Sure.
But if the valuation goes down, then we are looking at those cuts. And I'm sorry, for the county, it's people, or it's benefits, or that's what it is. There's not a whole lot out there.
You don't have our sales taxes.
We can go through,
We're supplementing
we can
all
trim
those
some
services.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not getting down that, but it's that we gotta get to that. If that's the goal, and that is our goal right now, to get that 700 off for this budget season, it's gonna take some work, especially if our valuation isn't good.
Can I ask the city commissioners, what would they do? I mean, just speak what you think, your process on your 200 and,
I think it's a number
7,000?
problem for me. Personally, we have budget book number 1, which was kicked out. We had budget book number 2 that was approved, and then budget book number 3 that is what we're working off, but this was approved. For me, it's a numbers problem because people do not believe the numbers right at the moment until we get to the point where the numbers are correct or they feel like they are, and then the state certificates, they look to be different than the numbers that you were talking about
They've
here.
never changed.
So the confusion is the numbers.
So I've heard this question from Christy Bittner. She's called me a couple times and we visited about it. And like the three budget books, I mean, I get that there's a process. I mean, I don't even.
But that's the confusion. If
Well,
the
but I
numbers are
don't-
right, and you say they're right, I'm good with that. But the confusion is 3.
And I haven't seen them, so I don't know exactly what number would be different. I do know when you're working through a budget, the numbers, I mean, you're obviously changing your numbers,
There's
but,
2 budgets.
And-
Every year, there's a submitted budget.
Right.
There's another one.
well, we have working copies all the
second
time.
budget, when Missy got here, we said, look, you need to go through, and it started with the assessed valuation, because we took the 16 million off. The one thing that has never changed in those budgets is the only legal thing in those documents, which is the certification page. And you know that, and I know that, because we've used it. I've talked to you about it this week.
Yep.
It's the numbers that are up on that screen. The budget book is a report that's trying to show accurately where the money goes in the budgets. And I think Missy came in here and has cleaned up that third budget. But we always do two budgets, and the third budget is just a correction on the first one because it had the hospital and the sewer rate screwed up in it. But the certification page for the property tax, the ad valorem tax, which goes to the state, has never changed in any of those budgets.
So you're saying with the TIF and the neighborhood revitalization and Block 22, all those numbers are in line and correct now? Is that what you're saying?
They change the final submitted budget that the adopted budget we send to them, they change the mill rate every year by some fraction.
We actually have a blank certificate that I use. Well, I mean, it has your numbers in there, but it doesn't have the mill rate set. It's the numbers that you use from your budget. I mean, I have all the pages scanned in from when you submit it. But I hand figure on the side what that mill is going to be because valuations change all summer long. I mean, that's kind of what happens. They go up, they go down. So the final is not set until one certain point in time when I shut everything off and start working through my process to freeze the valuations.
That's part of the existing process.
And
Yeah.
another thing is that you guys are more involved in your county budget than we are. We're not as involved like you guys are, where Bruce says you talk about it and you go over it, and that we don't see that in there.
We don't have a
That's misconception.
finance. We don't have a finance department either, so I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I figure that's probably what they do and they present it to you. But these guys
We submit
are.
a budget in July and have public meetings between July and when it's adopted in September for any public comment at any time from any commissioner about any of those budgets. We do the work that you don't have a county administrator, so the 5-year forecast and working day, which we have, reflects all of us already meeting internally with me and my staff to present the budget to you that you get after the working day when you say, hey, what do we want raises to be? What do we want the cost of living to be? What's our valuations looking like? And it all starts when you finally kick us our valuations in the end of June, middle of June.
Yeah, I think June 15th.
So, yeah, while you don't see it, the opportunity is there, and we can, and we've already talked about having them at every meeting. But to say that we don't go through that process, there's a lot of processes you do at the county that we do at the city different because we have a city manager and you don't.
When do you see the assessed appraised value? Like, do you see it?
We get it in June.
June 15th is when I have to have it to everybody,
Yeah.
including ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've usually done the 5-year forecast by that, and we've taken every revenue and extrapolated it out for 5 years. And we've looked at where we are in our raise schedule, with employees, and we build that in, and then we're waiting for that number because that number's gonna tell us what of that we can actually afford to do. And then that's what we end up presenting in my submitted budget to the commission and say, this is my budget, and if you wanna change it in the next 3 months, we can change it. And then we have the hearings whenever the state sets the revenue neutral rate and the other dates. But we can also do it we can have it, they've always just trusted us and said, bring us a budget that you think we want, and you give us input on it, and we put it together.
Carl,
What do you think? Go ahead. I was gonna ask you.
to your question, Carl, about what I think, this is my opinion, as one of 5 commissioners, but I said it when Joe talked to us the last meeting, I'll say it again, the most fiscally responsible thing I think that we do as a commission is to agree to start off $207,000 less in next year's budget process. After Lisa told us the numbers, Joe kind of had a guesstimate of it, but I mean, for 2,362 residents getting less than $10 before you take off the expenses to do that, even if we're able to do that, I don't see how, if somebody were to tell me, hey, you're gonna get a $10 refund, but it's gonna cost you $2, $3, whatever, or you could apply it towards next year's balance or next year's taxes, if you will. That's what I'm gonna, that's my decision. And that's what I have to go with, is what I think, there's other numbers out there, like Bruce said, there's numbers that I'm not sure where they're coming from. I think promises are being made that it's a larger number of a refund, and I think that's driving some of the people's decisions. But when the county clerk tells you that it's gonna be what she said, that is what we have to look at. That's what I have to look at, and that's what I would support, is starting it on next year's budget.
So, just asking you my opinion. So we start out like a 700,000 less next year. So if ours is, X number of dollars, say $100, so we'd start starting our budget out, so we'd start out with a mill levy that we had before this increase, 46.59. Then we'd work off of that.
I mean, if you're at, that's what.
No, I'm
That's what it
asking.
looks like to me.
I want people's opinion,
Yeah.
not just mine,
I mean,
because I've talked to hundreds of people.
right.
And
you guys
this is
have
what
a-
I kinda
You
can-
guys have a much bigger number to work with, so it's a little more impactful, but from our standpoint, and I really think from your standpoint, you guys aren't set up to make refunds, and I know that may not be what people wanna hear, but,
Well, I'm leaning towards more, like you say, is give them credit. I mean, they'll get it next year and not this year.
and Lisa had a great point. The people that elected us because they trust our decision.
Right.
And I think that's what we have to go with, and I think that, I don't know how else to put it other than I think that's the most responsible way of handling this. One time, I mean, I've done it for 4 years, you guys have done it a lot longer than that. It's the one time that I can remember ever having this situation. So I think we've all outlined how it happened, why it happened, what to do about, not happening again. But yeah, I think, my opinion, that's exactly what we do going forward, and that's
my
up to you
question-
guys, I don't know how you do it.
My question to you guys is, if you cut that out, are you gonna have to cut services the following year?
It'd be tight.
It would depend on our assessed value, what it does based on the same mill levy.
So we're in the same boat essentially.
Basically.
So, if
And-
our assessed value goes up, and hopefully it will, then that would help offset some of that we'd have to raise. Do I think we could do it? Hell yeah, I think we could do it.
I just want to say, Lisa's started out with the big players in town, in the city, that's not complaining, and they're gonna get, if we did something, they'd get a larger percentage back for what they paid.
I
On
just
next
can't
year's-
say-
On next year's taxes.
I'm talking about electric companies,
Yeah.
who else?
I can't say personally that I've had anybody call me or
Well,
talk
that's
to
what,
me,
I read
but-
this somewhere, and I'm not gonna mention any electric company's name, but they passed that property tax on to the consumer. So if their property tax goes up, your electric bill goes up. And anywhere, in any of these businesses, they pass that on.
Well,
We
they
pass
can't
it
do it
on.
automatically, they have to go to the commission.
Right, but it's passed on, Doc, and we pass it on to the taxpayers when ours goes up.
And but in essence, that's what our budget is. The reason we try to set the mill rate and take the growth is because the cost of the water lines and the pavement and the manpower goes up.
I
So
understand
we're
that,
just
Darren.
trying to
Yeah.
keep up with, it sounds like the
And we're
county's
looking
gonna.
at, 8% increase in our insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything goes up, and it goes up, and I know, we're talking about $1, $5, it goes up to taxpayers too. And they have a budget, and they have to go by, so, I understand when you say our cost goes up, but don't forget who's paying that cost, because their cost goes up too. And that's what I'm gonna ask you guys. You talked about you needed this 700,000 this year. Can you go back and start in the whole 700,000 and go down, and you're saying it depends on, so.
I think evaluation would be the biggest driver of how easy it is. I mean, obviously, to me, it's the same as cutting it right now. The only difference is I'd have to go back to those departments right now and say, okay, what can you sacrifice? And everything I've looked at is leading to employee benefits for people, or raises, cost of living. We haven't decided that yet because we're still waiting on this. Something that along that line. But if you start, instead of how we usually do our budget, we start with all I like to look at it as a want versus a need list.
Right.
And you start with a number, you'll know exactly where you need to go. I mean, we always use that mill as that, and realistically, maybe we should use that number as that, because that's kind of what we get to that point. We can always use the mill as a guide, but, is it possible? I'm sure it's possible. Now, what type of cuts would that include? I don't know. I mean, I think there would be some things we do this year. There'd be spending we wouldn't do this year if we can offset it to be more prepared for that, and hopefully with that and if it raises valuation, we're in a better situation.
Right.
Because there's certain things I know right now that we can go through. I mean, we've already had 3 or 4 elected officials say, if it comes to not giving my employees a raise, take my raise, and I'm one of those. Don't give me a cost of living increase. But the people in the workforce,
Sure.
they deserve it.
See, one thing to think about, and if I throw this number out here and Joe and Lisa don't agree with it, that's fine, but I heard this. We went up 7% assessed appraised value. Okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit. 2 years prior, we went in compliance with the state. You have to be between 90 and 110% of your assessed appraised value. Well, we got out of it, and I'm hoping and praying that the assessed appraised value for 2026 don't go up, and that's going to help us out if we can get that mill levy back down. Because like I say again, you got 2 denominators there. If that assessed value stays right where it's flat where it is now, we go back where we was at, I think we're going to be okay. I said I think, but you don't know what the assessed appraised value is going to do.
Well, you guys got a bigger number than we have, and if I heard you right, Darren, a while ago, that 207,000, you said it was really about 150,000?
Yeah, because we split it 3 ways. I mean, the library, I tried to call Bev and didn't get a hold of her, but I didn't figure we could just sit here and talk about cutting her money without saying what it means. I mean, we don't really run the library. I mean, they just, we collect the taxes and they have their own thing. And then the debt service, but we have a debt reserve. I mean, one of the things that I've promised the commission is we're gonna build up our reserves in case we need them. So it's news to me that you guys don't have reserves, but I also know you don't have the revenue stream.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
I was always told that you couldn't collect more than what you need. Is that true or not? Just asking the question.
As a legal question or as a?
I don't care. I mean, whoever's got an opinion about it.
I've never been anywhere, I've never been in a community where anybody's collected more than they.
Well, the reason why I say, I mean, and not knocking you, but you got sales tax for safety. You got sales tax, a little bit of yours goes for the parks. See, we don't have no sales.
Right.
We got 3 revenue streams. We got property tax, we get a little bit from the landfill, and who's?
You get a little sales tax.
Casino.
Huh?
And we do
got
get-
and the casino.
We get some sales tax.
You get some sales. You got
Well, I
a-
mean, some, but not, proportion right to,
It's shared with the cities.
certain, yeah, that's
Our-
true.
And
our
that's,
1
and
cent
that's my
share.
point, is sometime before I got here, the city, not the county, but the city said, public safety ain't good enough, but we need a public safety sales tax. Our streets aren't good enough, we need a street sales tax. We don't have any economic development in this town, we're willing to pay for an economic sales tax. So when you have those, we have the luxury of just saying, you have to put a number down and tell Lisa, we need, I don't know how big your budget is. We have the luxury of just saying, look, we can't afford to do everything everybody wants, but we can promise them we're just gonna keep the mill flat, and we're just gonna live off the growth. And this year, of course, we blew it because we can't read apparently, but, that's always been the intent, and that's why it's easier for us just to say, let's just start next year, lower the mill 1.152 when we start, and that will take care of that. Everybody will get that benefit next year.
Can we go back to Commissioner Wood's question though, of all the city commission, what we all think we would do? Because I'm the only one, I think, that voiced my opinion on what to do, so I don't think I heard from the other 4.
Go ahead. I mean, I'm the one that listens.
Yeah, Chuck said
I'm
that.
curious.
Okay.
Yeah, I brought that up, start in the hole and lower the mill back to where we started. And if you agree with that, yeah.
And how about, see, there was a little more to that question. We'd go back where we was at, and the people would not be charged, like in our case, 700,000, instead of where we went from 46.59 to 48 something. So they'd be back where we was at. I mean, paid for it once, but they wouldn't pay for it the second time. Is that what you're
Well, I
talking?
think it's easier for us to do that than you guys, but, I know
Well,
we can,
We're in this,
right.
don't want to,
No,
we're in this
you're
together.
right. We are in this together. We're
Yes,
all doing
because-
this. We're all
That's right.
trying to make this
I
work.
would agree with what Stu says. Go with the 50.8,
And Chuck.
Yeah.
and Chuck, yeah, go with the 50.8.
I mean, we don't have to decide tonight, we just want to see what
I
avenue,
mean, you guys have
if we're
to
picking brains.
kind of
People
vote
wanna
on whatever
hear.
you're gonna do, you don't have to vote on what we're gonna do.
People
but,
are paying attention, they want to hear,
Right.
that
What
you're
we
not
think
just
is
saying,
we're
well, we're going to
together.
take care of it. I mean, they want to hear what you're planning.
No, this is monumental having this group together like this, so people understand we're trying to make it right. I feel, and I appreciate that question too, being a new commissioner, looking at this, when I came in, one of the first things that I wanted to do is be more involved in the budget. And I've sat down multiple times with Darren and Jay and staff, and we've all talked this, and we're moving forward with the commission being heavily involved, moving forward with all budgets. I think that will have a better effect, more eyes on, more of the process that you guys use and other entities with this much moving parts, this many things happening all at once. It'll also give us a better way to explain what's going on to the people that we govern and help them understand what's going on, so there's not a fire sale, there's not all the chaos of this happened. And in that, like I said, the more eyes on will help. We have a staff and we, they're good at what they do, and we're supposed to take the numbers and sit down. I think being more involved throughout the year and the entire process will get us closer, and God willing, we won't have another one of these situations where something like this has happened. We keep jumping back and forth, so I'll cover two things. What I think should happen, what we should do is do what's right to the people, what is most fiscally responsible for the money that we govern. Taxpayers need to know we're doing that, and there's options there, clearly, different directions. Spending their money to return their money, it sounds chaotic too, especially if it's a couple dollars here and there. But then building trust with the people of this community, knowing that we're doing the right thing and we're trying to make it as responsible as possible. It takes all of us. I know there's not an easy button to make this happen right now. We talked about software issues being a part of what would stop it. The process itself just being learned by all of us, that what can be done, what's legal, what's not. But as a group, obviously you guys have to vote this differently than we do at the city, but in my position, I would like to see the taxpayers cared for in the best way possible. And if that is taking it off of their taxes for next year, and then we don't have to spend the extra money mailing things out, that sounds a positive move, but then you're also going to have people that move out of this county because of various reasons. They're going to sell their home. They're not going to see that credit. So how do we justify taking care of the ones that are remaining and fighting the fight, in a high-taxed economy, and then the ones that are leaving are kind of empty-handed? So we have to look at that too. I don't think that's something we can, push a button or make happen in one meeting, of course, but I would like to see some options, I guess. You guys have a much larger number than we're working with, but I think moving forward, collectively as a county and the largest city in this county, I think working together on these things, getting these earlier meetings between, I know you're very busy and you have a crazy amount of responsibility in your jobs, trying to fit some time in there for all of us to have this and talk it will be paramount. So again, I don't have an answer. I would like to thank Roger Lomshak for putting everything together he did on this and showing us the numbers. Again, Chuck made mention to it that, if this hadn't gotten brought up, it kind of, people don't pay attention to the mill levy. They wouldn't have known it happened. They just pay their bills and move on. For me, and I said this earlier, I just want to make sure this doesn't happen again. My intent coming in, my very first meeting with Darren was to lower the mill levy in this first year being on this commission. I want this new commission to work towards that. I want to get below 50 before anything gets to your guys' level. Like, we're going to back budget, try to make that happen without affecting our public safety, law enforcement, and first responders. So that's something I think collectively we're going to work towards.
And to Cheryl's point, I think we're going to just start having, probably in February, budget meetings before every commission meeting, kind of like you do, and just say, hey, that way everybody can hear what the shortages, what Public Works would like to do, what Parks would like to do, because a lot of people just don't know, and we don't, it's just, we don't have that much money. So having everybody come up and say, here's our wish list that we don't want, that we're not gonna get, we usually just kind of cut to the chase. But I think it's important, and especially now, I mean, if the commission wants it, we're gonna make that happen for sure. But I do think at some point, I'm gonna have Lisa come over to a commission meeting before we submit our budget and talk about her sheet, her form, and what it's looking like we're gonna have for revenues, and tell her thanks for all the hard work she does, because I really haven't ever talked to her until last week. I think I've talked to her 5 times, and she's like, lose my number, please. But she does a heck of a job, and I don't know how you get it done, because the numbers are just, sometimes you just feel like you're chasing your tail. But
I'd like to go back to the budget hearing that took place in this room. There was lots of discussion. I spoke as a civilian to not going above the neutral rate, essentially, and ultimately, you do the research and you understand the formula. By agreeing to go above the neutral rate, you're agreeing to the raise in the funding needed, the funding of the taxes, and potentially change your mill rate. And so people need to understand that it's a small speed bump in the process of trying to keep your taxes from going crazy. But it is a useful tool. So when you do vote to go above the neutral rate, you are voting for the mill levy to go up with need and the budget itself. The budget's built around that extra money. So that's something we're going to focus on moving forward.
Well, somebody mentioned earlier that, we get elected. And it's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable work when you go knock on doors and listen to people. Like in the audience tonight, there's not a lot of people. But when you go talk to them at their house, they're going to talk to you. And I like that part. And you keep getting reelected because people trust you. And I don't know if you follow any federal or state government, but they don't trust them very much. And at local level, that's all we got, is people's trust in what we're trying to do. And if they trust us, they're gonna reelect us. If they trust us, we're gonna make the best decision we can for them. And, that's what it's about. And when I say that I want my thoughts, and there could be other plans, to start in the whole 207,000 and go back to whatever it was, 50.8, and possibly, like DJ said, we might go down to 49. I don't know. But when I tell people that's my goal, they trust me, and that's all we can ask for, to have people's trust. Because there's not a lot of it out there at other levels. And I really like the local level, because that's where you come in contact with the people and how you can help them the best way you can. So, that's my 2 cents. I'll put it towards our 207,000.
Cheryl, you're the only commissioner that are you cool with that?
I'm great with that as long as the numbers are correct, because like Chuck says, people trust us. My name, my word, my research, that means everything to me. And I know that I'm working for the people that live in this town. I want them to believe that I'm on their side, not big government, which is not county, but or city. But I'm just saying that a lot of people are against government.
Yeah.
But like Chuck says, we see all of you every day in town, working, playing, otherwise. And all it takes is listening to what you guys are asking for, and that's what I'm doing. And I'd be good with the 207 starting out.
And I think this meeting was set for discuss taxes and the 2026 budget. Darren, I would ask you, there's been controversy over these 3 books. We've gone over it over again so many times. Christy has come in here and she spent weeks, hours going through it. I would ask you that maybe go back, take the questions that she's asked, and let's get some answers for the questions on the difference in the numbers. So I think one of them was around 2 million. And I'm tracking with what's sent to the state, what's sent to county is not changed, but there were numbers in all 3 of those books that were drastically different that filter to that number. So if we could get just some clarity, and we're talking about trust here, the information that explains why those numbers were different, and then maybe we can rebuild some trust with the community on what's going on. That way the 3-book thing won't follow us into 27. Is that something?
We will do it, and it would be a lot easier if last year she just came into the office, we sat down with the finance director and went through them. This year it's been, I know Missy's sitting here and at 7 o'clock, it looks like she has nothing to do, but she's putting in a financial management system and trying to learn her job. So we will get, if we need to go back and listen to all the hearings and write down, I mean, we try to keep up, but yeah, Missy has got such a good handle on that book, and I think every question there is easily answered. And because it all starts with the right numbers that are in that certification page. And, but absolutely, we'll go dig it up, and if you.
Well, like I said, she's had some of the similar questions. I've taken notes on the stuff that she's brought up, and like I said, I know she's spent a lot of time on it. So if she's a citizen of this community, she's put all this extra effort in, I think she's probably put more time in that budget than any commissioner that's sat up here. So if we just get some answers for those questions that she had, get clarity for that, and then, you know, I don't think, obviously, she doesn't want to do it in a closed-door environment. She wants it here in the commission session. So I think that's something we should work
If I
with.
could say something about the drafts, the books, the 3 different versions, I just want you guys to understand, the first version is a draft, and it won't be any different when I'm doing it. I know I wasn't here when those were done, but I think that's just part of the process. So when we start talking about 3 different books, the draft is just a draft, and we have to massage that and get that to the numbers you guys want. So I don't call that a book. I mean, maybe bound and ready for you guys to look at, but I don't count that as a permanent draft, and that's not a book.
It's a
Now,
work
the other
product. It's
two-
work product.
Right.
It's a work in process,
Yeah.
and that's really what happened. And then when you get to the other 2 books, I realized, yes, that's probably uncommon that you have one that was submitted and approved, and then you have to make corrections. But I think that from what I understand in the meetings was, it was explained why those were changed. And so I would be happy to sit down and visit with Christy or anybody else, and we can look at those numbers. And I took those 2 books and I laid them down in spreadsheets, and I said, here's the old one, here's the new one, and I know where the differences are, and made notes on those. So if we can work through those. So if Christy wants to contact me, I'll be happy to.
Well, we can just go through the videos and pull the questions.
Well, I'm sure she'd be happy to come and talk to you again, but I'm thinking, and again, my suggestion is, she's been here so many times, there are a lot of people looking at her numbers and what she's put together, and there were some drastic changes from book 2 to 3. And I fully understand the draft process. Like, I've got 20 years of experience with that. We start with one, you know, we build it out, and then somebody makes a change and you start over. Like, you do it differently. You take variables out, you put variables in. I got it. But there's very pointed questions that she's brought to the commission that haven't been answered. And I think, again, we're talking about not doing anything right now substantial, but I think that will help with rebuilding trust with the
Okay,
people.
well, that makes me worry just a little bit, like, now that I'm in the seat of Director of Finance, is that I don't want you guys to expect that the first book that I give you is gonna be the final
They
book,
won't.
because it's not going to.
No, and again, we're gonna be more involved.
You guys do a good job of this. You'll come in, I meet with you each once before every commission meeting, and you come in and ask questions. And a lot of times, you're like, hey, I'm gonna ask you this question, make sure you got an answer for it, because I'm gonna ask it at the meeting.
And that's all this is.
If Christie, well, yeah, but it's not, because Christie asks it, and then we have to answer it 2 weeks later, instead of just coming in maybe and saying, I'm gonna ask these questions, have the answers for them, and you could, I can't give her 14 questions. I mean, half of it is, well, this column means that. It's produced in a way, if she would just work with us, we did it with her last year, we'd be happy to answer. There's nothing this staff likes more than telling somebody the answer to a question and explaining it. But when it's set up in a way that it's a stump the chump, which is a term you used the other day, then we're probably gonna feel like it's a stump the chump moment, and
Well, and that's what we're getting away from by doing
we
it.
gotta stop it. I mean, it's gotta be,
She's got questions, she's voiced them to the commission multiple times, and so now the commission, through you,
yeah,
responds to her.
we'd be happy to answer all the questions on the budget.
Well, I think somebody, DJ and Cheryl probably mentioned that we're gonna be more involved in the budget process, and that means all of it's hearing the same information at the same time. I mean, if you go individually, you talk to Darren, and he says something to me, I don't know what he says to DJ, so we're talking about, work sessions before commission meetings, and we can go over the budget, if Christie or whoever's here, maybe when we're talking about it, they can listen what's going on, and, you know, we can.
And we'll tell you in advance which department we're gonna be talking about, so if you're interested in Public Works, you can come in that day and listen,
Yeah.
and ask questions. Yeah, we can open that up completely. We used to do stuff and nobody ever came, so Carl scared them all off.
Hey, Doc, what's your opinion of all this?
Well, it's turning into a commission meeting.
Well, I know it is, but now, I know, that's fine.
And I think a lot of this could be lashed out of our own commission meeting without taking you guys'
But,
valuable time.
but what do you think, on this?
I think that we drop back, personally, I think we drop back to the 50.8. That way, everybody the following year will get a credit, and they won't get a check.
Right.
But their taxes will be lower, and that will solve that problem. And then we get into the budgets, you know, then we get into the budget more deeply and more finely than we have in the past.
And we starting the whole 200,000.
What?
We started the broad budget process, not only lowering the, back to the mill, but we start in the budget for.
But doesn't the mill eventually lower mill will lower that 200,000?
Each year, the mill's worth a little bit different money, but yes, basically, I'm sure next year it won't be worth less, unless the valuation goes down, which
But we're still gonna start
hasn't been.
200,000.
Only thing you can hope and pray for, that the assessed appraised value stays where it's at.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we lower down, cakewalk.
It used to go down, my first 5 years it went down every year. It was scary.
Well, here's my thoughts and my worries. You listen to federal government and you listen to state government, they're cutting things. And what's gonna happen when they cut those at those levels? People are gonna come to us and expect us to pick up the slack, and that can't happen either.
Nope.
We don't have that kind of money, but,
No,
this is the world we're in now.
We need to start focusing on the taxpayer and working them into the equation, not they're the after effect. That's where we're at.
Like you say, Chuck, we don't work for the county, we work for the taxpayers.
I think Cheryl said that, but
Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
That's just what we do. You know, we work for them, that's what I tell everybody. We don't work for the county, we work for the taxpayers.
And I don't know if this plan is gonna make too many people happy, I think it will. It's not gonna, like DJ said, why spend money to get money back? Why can't you just start out lower and work from there? You know, we don't have the answers to everything.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people have approached me in the grocery store and other places, and with the exception of 2 people, I probably talked to 20 to 30 people, they say, take that little bit of money that I have and put it towards better services. That's what they usually say.
I've heard that too, Doc.
So I think that's what you guys need to do it more so than we do. The gun is in your.
I've talked to plenty too,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what I'm.
So I think that's the proper way to do it at this point.
Well, to be honest with you, we have, I mean, that is
Yeah,
the sheriff's, that
exactly.
is the sheriff's funding, and that is EMS funding. I mean, that's where that money's at.
You guys did, you.
We did
boosted
it.
the
I mean,
sheriff,
that's-
You boosted the ambulance, yeah.
We got the EMS where I feel comfortable, and I didn't want to say this, we're hopeful that within the next few months, the EMS and transfer numbers go up and everything goes out, that we start not making money, but we start offsetting some of that cost. And that could help next
We
year.
have a huge write-off when it comes to an ambulance.
Right.
But it's just, there's a lot of moving pieces, and I don't have a crystal ball to tell the future, but it'd be ideal if those, most of our transfers have the capability of paying their bill, and therefore we reimburse the people that we're funding that 4th shift with, and then essentially we're stuck with the 3 shifts, what the next one paying for itself, that'd be ideal. And then that increase does go back to the budget, but we were at the point we had to do that.
Yeah, well, like Tom said earlier, and I'm not a county commissioner, I wouldn't have been in that, like to have been in that position. But when you call for an ambulance, you gotta tell them we don't have one.
No, what you do at that point is you beg your ambulance director
To get somebody
to
else
find
better.
something. And whether it's a helicopter, or even, we've had jets come in from Wichita in life situations. And
But if
that's
they
not a
don't pay
good
that,
cost.
you eat it, right?
Do we eat it?
Yeah, if it doesn't get paid, you eat it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, on a transfer, if it's our equipment, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say how much we don't get paid. And we've tried it.
Sure.
We,
God knows.
hey, we went to bill collectors, the state's got something, they get a refund there, we get it, It's just on, and it's just like, like a water bill. They don't pay their water bill, you go shut them off. Well, you don't shut them off here.
Missy shuts them off.
Well, you know, like I said earlier, we heard the county's gonna wait to see what we do, and we're gonna wait to see what the county does.
That's not right.
I think the city has come up with what we're gonna do. I don't know what the county's gonna do.
Well, like I say, we got a meeting, the way I understand it, we got a meeting tomorrow, we got a meeting Tuesday. You guys got one Tuesday night, and, looks like we're pretty well, everybody's on the same page, knowing next year's budget, you know. We're gonna go back to our mill levy, and people will absorb hopefully their money back.
Well, I think, just like I said, it's gonna be easier for us to find 207,000 that we can reduce department budgets by, and it's not gonna affect police, fire, roads, water, sewer plants, or anything. We can find that, you know, and reduce it.
Yeah, we'd be happy to trade you.
Yeah.
Has anybody approached the county, any of you at any level, about offsetting the valuation hikes that we're dealing with across the nation right now?
Well, the way I understand it, if you're talking about the assessed appraised value, that is set by the state. We have nothing to do with that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe or Lisa.
Right.
Well, that's incorrect.
Okay.
The county appraiser has to appraise every property every year. They set the value. Ag use is set by the state. State assessed properties are assessed by the state, but local real estate is appraised by the county appraiser.
It's been brought to my attention.
And then the assessment rate is set in.
Okay, assessed rate, yeah, by statute. Okay.
So the taxable value is taken, you know, times whatever the assessment rate is.
There are areas that are trying to offset the inflated property valuations right now by reducing their mill to accommodate. It's not 1-for-1 or 100%, but they're trying to reduce it on their municipalities and function rates, as opposed to just going along with the raised levels. So you guys looked at that? Anybody talked to you about that, or is it?
Well, I mean, we've got the sheet that shows.
That's what we've done.
That's what we've tried to do. So we were at 51 mills in 2018, and we could have stayed there. And we'd been in pretty darn good shape if we'd have stayed there. But we decided to cut the mill over the years. So we were down to 46. So we've cut 4.5 mills over, you know, we didn't just take the money as it came along. We actually went through and cut. This year we had to go up 2 mills because of what's happened. But yeah,
Is there any way to, say the city wanted to take a rolling average of assessed valuation for the last 5 years? Is that even possible? Because you said, I mean, you know, the assessed valuation, you guys said it, we don't set it. But could you go back and say, hey, this year it's gonna be 7, the last 3 years it was this, let's average it and do.
Well, see, what they do, and you guys probably know it too, we gotta be between 90% and 110%. If they sell a house, say it falls in 78%, we're not in compliance, as what I've been told through the years. So 2 years, we was out of compliance.
We were low.
We was low, what we assessed them at. And is it 2 years or 3 years, Jim?
On the third year, don't they come in and the state comes in and?
you know, they give you a letter that's not nice, and they called us, and they were on the phone, and the guy kind of gave us a lecture, and, you know, they're giving you a pep talk that you need to raise your value, we need to raise our value, and there was no doubt about it, and what you don't want is the state coming in. So they're.
By region, by state?
No, by county. So it's by county, and Joe says I get over my skis sometimes when I start talking, because I'm not the appraiser, but they are graded.
No, we can't do it.
So the appraiser's graded. They are graded on their sales. The state comes down and takes a look at every sale in the county each year, and how close we were to that sale price. As you know, the sale prices have been pretty hot in the last several years, and our appraiser's been trying to catch up to that. If not, then we get a report card that's a fail, and eventually the state can come in, take over your department. I don't think it happens very often, but they could. They encourage you to get your values up. And so that's what's happened.
A $400,000 house in Crawford County sells this year.
Yes.
And it's assessed at $425,000.
Yes.
So it sells at $400,000. That lower value essentially collectively would hurt the process. But if you have a home that, I don't know, somebody's moving to the area, they have to have it, they pay $70,000 more than it's actually worth, that rushes everybody else's value.
Exactly right.
Or 100 or 120.
My question is, how do we battle that?
That's what's happened, DJ. That is what's happened. That is what's happened.
I've been there several times.
We've looked at it, and it's the fact that they don't, most counties don't have the problem we're having in that regard. Most counties are not growing, you know, values are probably going down in most of them, and I mean, you always have growth in the bigger counties, but what we have is perfect storms. You have people that come from out of state most likely, and they overpay on a piece of property just because it's a deal in their eyes because they sold theirs for way, way more somewhere else. And it 100% affects our valuation, and we've been fighting it every year. And there's just no way. I mean, it has to come from the top down.
I've spoken with legislators on the capping it at 2% annually thing, and that's a Band-Aid for what's happening. It's not gonna fix it, it just takes them longer to do what they've done. So, I mean, there's gotta be some way we can do something.
You notice
about
a
that.
lot of these people comes from California.
Yeah.
And boy, they think they're in all heaven.
And they are.
And they are compared to what they had, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll take them all in Pittsburgh. We can get.
So I know we're going on here, but
Can
we
you
had
say-
we had a question about rolling averages, Darren.
Yeah, you
and
can blow that off.
Well, I think we're required to do what we're required to do. So we're gonna
Yeah,
give you
that's-
what we have to give you internally if you want to run different numbers and lower your levy based on,
But it's not a county, state.
we have to follow the stat. So we
There's
have to
no-
give
there's no
you,
statute.
we have to give you what we're required to give you by statute.
you talk real
You could do
quick-
something different internally.
Can you talk real quick about sheriff's sales? Because I've been getting a lot
Yes.
of calls about why aren't we doing sheriff's sales? I'm like, I think we are.
Well, the good news is that we are.
Yeah.
So we have, we've partnered with a law firm that does sales in 30 counties, which is good, at no cost to the taxpayer. Costs are paid out of the sale, and so it's good news for the taxpayer, good news for us. This firm's knowledgeable, they've got pretty good staff. We have turned everything over to them. I've heard from them this week. They're working on our sales. So our goal this year through them is to be caught up. So we've turned every sale, every property we possibly could is in their hands.
What year are you on that sale?
So we have made it to 20, let's see, we caught up 6 years. I think we have given them 2016, there's about 300 properties checked total, throughout the county is where we're at.
It would be substantial.
It will be, and I think, they haven't promised me, but we're gonna hold them to getting that done, this year. But this is what they do. So, yeah, we've turned it over to a professional team, and we were doing the best we can, but with not really internal issues, but even abstract, we were just having problems even getting what we needed to do
This
it.
is a joke, but when it comes to a tax sale, if they're from China, are you gonna sell it to them?
If there's a tax, I mean, it's,
Hey, you can't
Highest bid,
believe all
Jack.
the out-of-towners that come to these tax sales.
no, you'd
Hey,
be
before we
surprised.
break, seriously, these 5 people have worked their tail off for the last, I don't know when this meeting was scheduled, but we don't work with the county very often, obviously, because we can't even interpret your instructions sometimes, but everybody up here needs to know that this meeting went so well today because everybody jumped in and said, we gotta figure out these numbers, we can't ever do this again, what does this mean? Will you make time for us next year? Joe screamed a lot, but I won't get into that. And-
Not tonight.
And Jim, I thought Jimmy was another employee you guys had hired until I figured out it was actually what Joe calls Jim, but
Well, we should have one once a year.
we should do this more. But anyway, this was really helpful, and it's because of the staff worked so hard on it, so I want to make sure we give them some credit, because
I think everybody likes it when Joe gets animated. Same.
Well,
Yes.
like I said earlier, I appreciate it all for hosting this, and I know you went through a lot. And I think it's helpful. I'm glad it's televised or whatever it's on, and people know, and maybe people will realize that we're not trying to scam them.
Well, I think we all dreaded having to have this kind of a meeting, and we're gonna fix the problem so we don't have to have another one on the same topic. So, but we should get together, and I think, we used to. All the
Yeah.
counties.
We used to have that, but I don't know whose turn it is to host it.
the pandemic kind of killed all those, but it's time to get them going again.
Yeah, no, we can do it.
We used to meet before that.
Yes.
Twice a year.
Yep. Good stuff.
Well, again, thank you all. Thanks, people for watching.
I'll move to
Second.
All right, we got a motion to move, close it. Stu, Doc said this. All in favor, say aye.
Thanks, everybody.
How are you?